The morning sun rose over the city of Seoul. Lee Tae-ho woke up at exactly 5:30 a.m., just as he had done every day for the past 50 years. Old habits from his military days never died. His small apartment was neat and clean, though the walls needed paint and the floor creaked when he walked. Tae-ho was 73 years old now. His hair had turned white, and his once strong body moved slowly. The mirror showed a face with deep lines and eyes that had seen too much. He touched the long scar on his right cheek, a reminder of the war that had happened 30 years ago. Another day, he said to himself as he made his simple breakfast of rice and fish. Tae-ho had fought in the Great Space War against the aliens called the Drokai. Most people today only knew about this war from history books or old videos, but Tae-ho had lived it. He had led a team of brave soldiers called the Tiger Unit. They had fought on many planets. They had saved many lives. They had lost many friends. Now no one seemed to care. After breakfast, Tae-ho put on his best clothes, old but clean, and pinned his small silver tiger badge to his jacket. Today was important. He was going to the veterans' office to ask, once again, about the ceremony for the battle anniversary. The Battle of Starbase 7 had happened exactly 30 years ago tomorrow. 22 of his friends had died there. Tae-ho believed they deserved to be remembered. The walk to the bus stop was hard on his knees. A group of young people stood at the stop, all looking at their phones. Their devices were thin and clear, showing moving images that floated above the screen. When Tae-ho had been young, phones were big and could only make calls. The world had changed so fast. "Excuse me," Tae-ho said politely as he tried to make room for himself at the bus stop. None of the young people moved. One boy with blue hair looked up for a second, then looked back down at his phone. Tae-ho sighed and stood at the edge of the shelter as it started to rain. The bus was crowded. No one offered a seat to the old man, even though many could see his military pin. 30 years ago, people would stand and bow when they saw a Tiger Unit member. Now they just pushed past him to get to the exit. The veterans' office was in a tall glass building downtown. Tae-ho had to go through security and wait in line for almost an hour. His legs hurt by the time he reached the front desk. "I'm here to see Officer Park about the Starbase 7 memorial," Tae-ho said to the young woman at the desk. She didn't look up from her computer. "Do you have an appointment?" "Yes. I called last week. Lee Tae-ho, Captain, Tiger Unit, ID 7734B. The woman tapped on her screen. "I don't see you here. Officer Park is very busy today." "Please check again," Tae-ho said. "This is the third time I've come about this. The anniversary is tomorrow." The woman sighed loudly. "Sir, there are no official memorial events scheduled for Starbase 7. Those small battles don't get individual ceremonies anymore." Tae-ho felt his face grow hot. "Small battle. 22 men died. We stopped the Drokai from attacking Earth directly. If we had failed." "Sir, please keep your voice down," the woman said, finally looking at him. Her eyes showed no respect, only annoyance. "If you want to file a request for next year, I can give you a form." Tae-ho stood straight, the way he used to when facing an enemy. "I have filed that form every year for 10 years. I have written letters to your boss and to the government. No one answers. No one cares." The woman looked around, embarrassed by his loud voice. "Sir, please. My men died so people like you could be free," Tae-ho said. His voice shook now. "They deserve to be remembered." A security guard walked over. "Is there a problem here?" "No problem," the woman said quickly. "Mr. Lee was just leaving." "Captain Lee," Tae-ho corrected her. "Captain Lee Tae-ho of the Tiger Unit." The security guard, a young man who looked barely 20, put his hand on Tae-ho's arm. "Sir, let's go over here and talk." Tae-ho pulled his arm away. "Don't touch me." People were staring now. Tae-ho saw pity in some faces, annoyance in others. No one looked at him with respect. He took a deep breath and straightened his jacket. "I will come back tomorrow," he said to the woman. "Perhaps someone else will be able to help me." Outside, the rain fell harder. Tae-ho had forgotten his umbrella, so he stood under the building's overhang, watching people hurry by with their colorful rain shields. No one looked at the old man in the wet jacket. His comlink beeped. It was an old model that he kept because it was simple to use. The screen showed a message from the Veterans Hospital. "Your appointment has been moved from 2 p.m. to 9 a.m. tomorrow. Please confirm." Tae-ho frowned. He had waited 3 months for that appointment. His leg pain was getting worse, and the medicine wasn't helping anymore. Now he would have to choose between the doctor and going to Starbase 7 Memorial Park by himself, since no official ceremony would happen. One battle, he muttered as he started walking toward the bus stop. Just one day to remember them. Is that too much to ask? The afternoon grew darker as storm clouds gathered. By the time Tae-ho reached his neighborhood, the rain was coming down in sheets. He stopped at the small market on the corner to buy food for dinner. The store owner, Kim Do-yoon, used to give veterans a discount. His father had served in the same war as Tae-ho, though not in the Tiger unit. But the old man had died last year, and his son didn't care about the past. "That'll be 15,001, Do-yoon said without looking up from his screen. "The sign says military veterans get 10% off." Tae-ho pointed to the faded poster on the wall. Do-yoon barely glanced at it. "That was my father's policy. We don't do that anymore." Tae-ho counted out his money carefully. His pension barely covered his needs, and prices kept going up. "Your father was a good man. He understood what we fought for." "Yeah, well, that war's ancient history now," Do-yoon said, finally looking at Tae-ho. "No offense, old-timer, but nobody cares about the space battles anymore. The Drokai are our biggest trading partners now. My cousin works for a Drokai tech company. Makes tons of money." Tae-ho felt sick. The same aliens who had killed his friends, who had tried to take over Earth and its colonies, were now welcome here. The young didn't understand what had almost happened, what would have happened if soldiers like him hadn't fought back. "The Drokai would have enslaved us all," Tae-ho said quietly. Do-yoon laughed. "That's old propaganda, man. They just wanted resources. Now we trade with them instead of fighting. Everybody wins." Tae-ho took his groceries without answering. There was no point. The young had been taught a different history than the one he had lived. The walk up 4 flights of stairs to his apartment was painful. The building's elevator had been broken for months. The landlord didn't hurry to fix things for the old people who lived there. Inside his small home, Tae-ho carefully hung up his wet jacket and changed into dry clothes. The apartment was cold, but he didn't turn on the heat. It cost too much, and he could manage with a blanket. On his shelf sat the only luxury he owned, a holoframe showing pictures of his Tiger unit. Tae-ho touched the control, and faces appeared in the air before him. Young, strong, smiling faces. 40 men had been in the unit when Tae-ho led them. Only 7 were still alive today. He touched another control, and the picture changed to show Starbase 7. The space station had been beautiful once, a shining silver wheel turning slowly against the stars. The last image showed what was left after the battle, broken metal and floating bodies. Tae-ho had led the last defense of the station. His men had held off the Drokai long enough for the civilian ships to escape. They had planted bombs in the station's core, blowing it up as the Drokai boarded. The explosion had destroyed 3 major Drokai warships. It had been called a great victory then. Streets had been named after the fallen. Tae-ho himself had received the highest medal from the president. For a while, they had been heroes. Now they were forgotten. As darkness fell, Tae-ho made his simple dinner and ate it while looking out his window at the city. The lights were beautiful from up here, shining through the rain. Seoul had changed so much since he was young. Tall buildings with strange shapes now filled the sky. Flying cars moved between them in neat lines. Holograms advertised products on the sides of buildings. It was the future he had fought for, but he no longer felt part of it. His comlink beeped again. Tae-ho frowned. No one called him at night. He picked it up and saw an unknown number. "Hello," he said. "Captain Lee Tae-ho of the Tiger Unit." The voice was deep and official sounding. "Yes, that's me. Your service record has been reviewed at the highest level. A car will pick you up tomorrow at 600 hours. Please be ready." Tae-ho sat up straight. "Who is this? What is this about?" "All will be explained tomorrow, Captain. Wear your full medals. This concerns Starbase 7. The call ended before Tae-ho could ask more questions. He stared at the comlink, then at the holoframe showing his fallen friends. After 30 years of being forgotten, had someone finally remembered? Tae-ho didn't sleep much that night. His mind filled with memories of the war, of his men, of Starbase 7. At 4:30, he got up and put on his best suit. He pinned all his medals to his chest, 7 in total, including the Star of Earth, the highest honor. He hadn't worn them in years. They felt heavy now. At exactly 600, his comlink beeped with a message. "We are outside." Tae-ho looked out his window. A long black SUV waited at the curb. Its windows were dark, and it looked expensive and official. 2 people in black uniforms stood beside it. For the first time in years, Tae-ho felt a spark of hope. He stood straight, checked his appearance one last time, and walked out to meet whatever was coming. The forgotten hero was about to be remembered. Tae-ho stood at the entrance of his apartment building, looking at the black SUV. His heart beat faster than it had in years. The 2 people in black uniforms turned to face him. One was a young man with a serious face. The other was a woman, maybe in her 30s, with short hair and sharp eyes. "Captain Lee Tae-ho?" the woman asked, giving him a perfect military salute. Tae-ho straightened his back and returned the salute. "Yes, that's me." "I'm Major Han Min-ji," the woman said. "This is Lieutenant Kang Jin-ho. Thank you for being ready on time, sir." "Sir." It had been years since anyone had called him that with real respect in their voice. "Where are we going?" Tae-ho asked. "I can't tell you that yet, sir," Major Han said. "But I promise all your questions will be answered soon." The back door of the SUV opened automatically. Inside, the seats were made of real leather, not the fake kind most people use now. The car was spotlessly clean and smelled new. Tae-ho got in carefully, his old joints complaining. Major Han sat next to him, while Lieutenant Kang got in the front passenger seat. There was no driver. The car started moving by itself. "Automatic driving system," Major Han explained, seeing Tae-ho's surprise. "Latest military technology." The windows of the SUV turned dark as they drove away from his neighborhood. Tae-ho couldn't see outside anymore. "For security," Major Han said. "I apologize for the secrecy, Captain." Tae-ho nodded. He understood security protocols. During the war, he had led many secret missions. "Can you at least tell me why I've been contacted after all these years?" he asked. Major Han looked at him with serious eyes. "Because of Starbase 7, sir, and because you're one of the few people alive who knows the truth about what happened there." Tae-ho's hands tightened on his knees. "The truth. The truth is that 22 of my men died defending that station from the Trokai." "Yes, sir, but there's more to the story. Much more." The car drove for nearly 2 hours. Tae-ho tried to guess their direction, but without being able to see outside, it was impossible. They could be anywhere in Korea by now. Finally, the SUV slowed down and stopped. The door opened, and Tae-ho stepped out. They were on top of a mountain. Tall trees surrounded a small clearing where the SUV had parked. In the distance, Tae-ho could see the lights of a city, but he couldn't tell which one. The morning air was cool and clean. "This way, sir," Lieutenant Kang said, pointing to what looked like a simple metal door built into the side of the mountain. Tae-ho followed the 2 officers to the door. Major Han pressed her hand against a hidden panel, and the door slid open silently. Inside was a small room with nothing but another door on the opposite wall. Security scan, Major Han explained as they entered. Standard procedure. The first door closed behind them. A soft blue light filled the room, moving over them from head to toe. Scan complete. Welcome, Major Han, Lieutenant Kang, and Captain Lee, a computer voice said. The second door opened. Tai-Ho's eyes widened as they stepped through. They were in a massive underground base. The ceiling was at least 30 meters high, with lights that looked like real sunshine. The space was bigger than 3 football fields. Hundreds of people in the same black uniforms worked at computer stations. Giant screens covered the walls, showing maps of Earth and space. Military vehicles and equipment filled one section of the base. In another area, Tai-Ho could see what looked like a hospital. "What is this place?" he asked, his voice quiet with surprise. "This is Base Phoenix," Major Han said proudly, "the headquarters of the Earth Defense Force." Tai-Ho shook his head slowly. "Earth Defense Force? I've never heard of it." "No one has, sir. That's the point. We don't officially exist." Lieutenant Kang gestured toward a glass elevator at the far side of the room. "The general is waiting to meet you, sir. He'll explain everything." As they walked through the base, Tai-Ho noticed something strange. People stopped what they were doing to look at him. Some nodded respectfully. Others saluted. A few even bowed. "They know who you are, Captain," Major Han said, noticing his confusion. "Everyone here knows about the Tiger Unit and what you did at Starbase 7. Tai-Ho felt a lump in his throat. After years of being forgotten, it was strange to be recognized and respected again. The elevator took them up 7 floors. When the doors opened, they were in a long hallway with only one door at the end. 2 armed guards stood on either side of it. "Captain Lee Tai-Ho to see General Bai, as requested," Major Han said to the guards. The guards saluted Tai-Ho and opened the door. The office inside was large but simple. Maps and screens covered the walls. A big desk made of real wood stood near the windows that somehow showed a view of the mountain outside, even though they were underground. Behind the desk stood a tall man with gray hair and a strong face. He wore the same black uniform as the others, but with more badges and stars. He looked about 60 years old. The man came around the desk with a smile and extended his hand to Tai-Ho. "Captain Lee, it's an honor to finally meet you in person." Tai-Ho shook the offered hand. "You have me at a disadvantage, General. You know me, but I don't know you." "Of course. I'm General Ba Hyun-soo, commander of the Earth Defense Force." He gestured to the chairs in front of his desk. "Please sit. We have much to discuss." Major Han and Lieutenant Kang remained standing by the door as Tai-Ho and the general sat down. "Would you like some tea, Captain?" General Bai asked. "No, thank you," Tai-Ho said firmly. "What I would like are answers. Why am I here? What is this place? And what does it have to do with Starbase 7? General Bai nodded. "Direct and to the point. I would expect nothing less from the legendary Captain Lee." He pressed a button on his desk, and the lights dimmed. A hologram appeared in the air between them. Tai-Ho recognized it immediately. Starbase 7, as it had looked before the battle, a beautiful wheel-shaped space station orbiting a distant planet. 30 years ago tomorrow, General Ba said, the Drokai attacked this station. You and your Tiger unit were the last line of defense. Tai-Ho nodded. We held them off long enough for the civilians to escape, then blew the station. We destroyed 3 of their warships in the process. That's the official story, General Ba said. And it's mostly true, but not completely. The hologram changed, showing the battle. Tiny ships moved around the station. Earth forces in blue, Drokai ships in red. Tai-Ho watched as the blue dots were slowly overwhelmed by the red ones. What's not true? Tai-Ho asked, his eyes fixed on the hologram. The reason for the attack, General Ba said. The public was told that the Drokai wanted the station for its strategic position, but that wasn't it at all. The hologram zoomed in on a section of the station, the science labs. Starbase 7 wasn't just a military outpost, Captain. It was a research facility. Our scientists had discovered something in that system, something the Drokai desperately wanted. Tai-Ho frowned. I was never told about any research. Need to know basis, General Ba said. And at the time, you didn't need to know. Your mission was to protect the station, and if necessary, destroy it. Which you did, brilliantly. What did they find? Tai-Ho asked. General Ba looked at him for a long moment, as if deciding how much to tell him. An artifact, he finally said. Not human, not Drokai. Something much, much older. The hologram changed again, showing what looked like a small black cube with strange symbols on its surface. We called it the beacon, General Ba continued. We didn't know what it was for, but we knew it was important. The Drokai attacked with everything they had to get it. Tai-Ho stared at the image of the cube. Did they get it? No, General Ba said. It was destroyed when you blew up the station. Or so we thought. The general stood up and walked to the window. 3 days ago, our sensors detected an energy signature identical to the beacon. It came from a Drokai ship entering our solar system. Tai-Ho felt cold suddenly. They found another one. Yes, and they're bringing it to Earth. Tai-Ho stood up too, his old legs forgotten in his surprise. Why would they bring it here? And why would we let them? General Bai turned to face him. Because officially, we're at peace with the Drokai. Have been for 28 years. Trade agreements, cultural exchanges, technology sharing. On the surface, we're the best of friends. Tai-Ho made a sound of disgust. I've noticed. But some of us, General Ba gestured around the room, never trusted them. That's why the Earth Defense Force was created. In secret, to watch and prepare. Prepare for what? For the day the Drokai show their true intentions, General Ba said grimly. Which we believe is about to happen. Major Han stepped forward. The Drokai ship will arrive tomorrow, sir, for the anniversary celebration. Tai-Ho's eyes widened. The anniversary of Starbase 7. They're coming here for that. General Bai nodded. Ironic, isn't it? The day we remember our defeat at their hands is the day they plan to use against us. Use how? Tai-Ho asked. The general returned to his desk and pressed another button. A new hologram appeared, a giant Drokai ship shaped like a curved blade. This is the Drokai vessel Peaceful Unity, General Ba said. Their newest diplomatic ship. It's scheduled to dock at Earth Orbital Station 1 tomorrow for the peace anniversary ceremony. The president, most government leaders, and high military officials will be there. Tai-Ho began to understand. And you think they'll attack? With this beacon thing? We're not sure, General Bai admitted. We don't know exactly what the beacon does, but we know it's powerful, and we know they want it badly enough to risk war. Tai-Ho shook his head. This is all very interesting, General, but I still don't understand why I'm here. I'm an old man now. My fighting days are over. General Ba smiled slightly. You're here because you've seen a beacon before, Captain. What? No, I haven't. Yes, you have. General Ba pulled a small device from his pocket and held it out. This is your personal log from the day of the Starbase 7 battle. The real one, not the edited version in the official records. Tai-Ho took the device with a shaking hand. It was an old-style data recorder, the kind they used during the war. Play entry 7734B, timestamp 1543, General Ba said. Tai-Ho pressed the button. His own voice, 30 years younger but unmistakably his, filled the room. We've reached the central lab. Heavy Drokai resistance. Lost Kim and Jun in the firefight. The scientists are dead. The Drokai were trying to access some kind of black box with strange markings. Dr. Park called it the beacon before she died. Said we couldn't let the Drokai have it. Setting charges now. May the spirits forgive me for what I must do. Taiho stared at the device in shock. I don't remember this. Memory suppression, Major Han said quietly. Standard procedure for top-secret missions. They made you forget certain details. Taiho felt anger rising in him. They played with my mind without my permission. You gave permission, Captain, General Ba said gently. But they made you forget that too. It was for your own protection. Taiho sat back down, suddenly feeling every one of his 73 years. So I saw this beacon. What good does that do us now? Because you're the only person alive who saw it and lived, General Ba said. Everyone else who encountered the beacon died on Starbase 7. Lieutenant Kang stepped forward with a small black case. He opened it to reveal a high-tech headset. This is a memory enhancement device, General Ba explained. With your permission, we want to try to recover your suppressed memories of the beacon. It might give us the information we need to stop whatever the Drokai are planning. Taiho looked at the headset, then back at General Ba. And if I refuse? Then we'll drag you home and thank you for your time. General Ba said simply. We won't force you, Captain. But without your help, we may be defenseless against whatever's coming. Taiho thought of his small apartment, his lonely life, the world that had forgotten him and his men. He thought of the young people who didn't care about the past, who welcomed the Drokai as friends. Then he thought of his fallen comrades, 22 men who had died at Starbase 7, men who had trusted him to lead them. What would they want him to do? Taiho straightened his back and looked General Ba in the eyes. When do we start? The memory room was small and quiet. The walls were soft gray and the lights were dim. Taiho sat in a comfortable chair in the center. Around him stood General Ba, Major Han, and a doctor named Park Subin. This won't hurt, Dr. Park said as she placed the memory headset on Taiho's head. You'll feel like you're dreaming. Old memories will come back to you. Taiho nodded. His hands gripped the armrests tightly. He wasn't afraid of pain. He had felt plenty in his long life. He was afraid of what he might remember. Ready, Captain? General Ba asked. Ready, Taiho said firmly. Dr. Park touched a button on her tablet. The headset hummed softly. Taiho felt a warm feeling spread through his head. His eyes grew heavy. Think about Starbase 7. Dr. Park's voice seemed to come from far away. Remember the day of the attack. Taiho closed his eyes. At first, there was darkness. Then, slowly, images began to form. Asterisk, he was on a military ship, flying toward Starbase 7. Alarms were blaring. His Tiger unit, 40 strong men in space armor, checked their weapons. They were the best fighters Earth had, and today they would prove it. Asterisk. Asterisk, Captain Lee, a voice called. Command for you. Asterisk. Asterisk, Taiho took the comm unit. Captain Lee here. Asterisk. Asterisk. This is Colonel Wu. Starbase 7 is under heavy attack. The outer defenses are gone. Your mission is to evacuate the civilians and essential personnel. If that's not possible, destroy the station. The Drokai cannot take it. Asterisk. Asterisk, understood, sir. What about the research team in Section 12? Asterisk. Asterisk. There was a pause. Top priority. Get them out if possible. If not. Asterisk. Asterisk, understood, Taiho said. He knew what if not meant. Asterisk. Asterisk. The ship docked at Emergency Bay 4, one of the few still working. Taiho led his men into the chaos of the dying space station. The lights flickered. Bodies floated in sections where gravity had failed. The air smelled of smoke and burnt metal. Asterisk. Asterisk, Team 1 with me to the civilian quarters, Taiho ordered. Team 2, secure an escape route. Team 3, find the research team in Section 12. Asterisk. Asterisk. The men split up. Taiho led Team 1 through corridors filled with smoke and fear. They gathered civilians, station workers, families, anyone they could find, and directed them to the escape pods asterisk. Asterisk, his comm unit crackled. Captain, this is Team 3. We've reached Section 12. It's, sir, you need to see this. Asterisk. Asterisk on my way, Taiho replied. Team 1, continue the evacuation. Asterisk. Asterisk, he ran through the damaged station, feeling it shake as Drokai weapons hit it from outside. He reached Section 12, the high-security research area, and found 3 of his men standing guard at the entrance asterisk. Asterisk inside. Sir, one of them said asterisk. Asterisk, the lab was partly destroyed. 5 dead scientists lay on the floor. 3 Drokai soldiers were also dead, killed by Team 3. In the center of the room was a table, and on it sat a small black cube covered in strange symbols that seemed to move when you looked at them asterisk. Asterisk, one scientist was still alive, barely. Dr. Park Sun-Yi, the lead researcher. Taiho knew her from the mission briefing asterisk. Asterisk, Captain, she whispered as he knelt beside her. The beacon. You can't let them have it. Asterisk. Asterisk, what is it? Taiho asked, looking at the black cube asterisk. Asterisk, a key, she said, blood bubbling at her lips. A key to something ancient. Something terrible. The Drokai will use it to. A fit of coughing stopped her words asterisk. Asterisk to what? Taiho urged. What will they use it for? Asterisk. Asterisk, Dr. Park grabbed his arm with surprising strength. It calls to them, she whispered. Changes them. Makes them more aggressive. More hungry. Her eyes were wide with fear. Destroy it, Captain. That's an order. Asterisk. Asterisk, she died in his arms. Taiho gently closed her eyes, then stood up asterisk. Asterisk, sir, one of his men said. The Drokai have breached the main docking bay. We have 15 minutes at most. Asterisk. Asterisk, Taiho looked at the black cube. It seemed to pulse slightly, though he wasn't sure if it was real or just a trick of the failing lights asterisk. Asterisk, set the charges, he ordered. We're blowing the station. Asterisk. Asterisk, as his men placed explosives around the lab, Taiho reached for the cube. He needed to make sure it was destroyed asterisk. Asterisk, as soon as his fingers touched it, a shock ran up his arm. Images flooded his mind. Stars exploding, planets dying, strange cities of crystal and light, creatures that weren't Drokai, but something older and more terrible asterisk. Asterisk and hunger. A hunger that could swallow worlds asterisk. Asterisk, he jerked his hand back, gasping. The cube pulsed more visibly now asterisk. Asterisk, sir. One of his men looked concerned. Are you all right? Asterisk. Asterisk, Taiho nodded, unable to speak for a moment. He took a breath. Place an extra charge here. This thing needs to be completely destroyed. Asterisk. Asterisk. The soldier didn't question the order. He placed an explosive directly under the cube asterisk. Asterisk, all set. Sir. 10 minutes to detonation. Asterisk. Asterisk, get to the escape pods, Taiho ordered. I'll finish here and join you. Asterisk. Asterisk, when they were gone, Taiho looked at the cube one more time. He felt a strange urge to take it with him, to study it, to understand its power asterisk. Asterisk, he resisted. Dr. Park's words echoed in his mind. Destroy it. Asterisk. Asterisk, he turned and ran for the escape pods asterisk. Taiho gasped as the memory faded. He opened his eyes to find General Ba, Major Han, and Dr. Park, all staring at him with intense interest. Did you see it? General Ba asked. The beacon. Taiho nodded, his mouth dry. Yes. And I touched it. Dr. Park typed quickly on her tablet. What happened when you touched it? I saw things. Stars dying. Strange worlds. And I felt Tai-ho struggled to find the words. I felt hunger. Not mine. Its hunger, or the hunger of whatever it connected to. General Ba and Major Han exchanged looks. What did Dr. Park tell you about it? Major Han asked. The scientist, not our doctor here. She said it was a key, Tai-ho replied. A key to something ancient and terrible. She said it calls to the Drokai, changes them, makes them more aggressive. General Bai nodded slowly. That matches our theories. We believe the beacon is a communication device. It connects to something, an entity or civilization, from outside our galaxy. The Drokai found one first, Major Han added. About 50 years ago, according to our intelligence. Shortly after, they began their expansion, their wars, their attempt to take over human space. Tai-ho frowned. You think this beacon made them do it? We think it influenced them, General Ba said. The Drokai were always aggressive, but after finding the beacon, they became conquerors. Their technology advanced rapidly. They began to hunger for more territory, more resources. Then we destroyed the beacon at Starbase 7, Major Han continued. And within 2 years, the Drokai were asking for peace talks. Tai-ho sat up straighter, and now they found another one. Yes, General Ba confirmed, and they're bringing it to Earth, tomorrow. Dr. Park removed the headset from Tai-ho's head. There's more in his memories. Shall we continue? Tai-ho raised his hand. Wait, let me think. His head ached slightly, and the memories still felt fresh and raw. This new beacon, have they activated it yet? We don't think so, Major Han said. Our sensors would have detected the energy signature. So why bring it here? Tai-ho wondered aloud. Why risk bringing it to Earth? General Ba walked to a screen on the wall and brought up an image of Earth Orbital Station 1, a massive space station in orbit around Earth. It was much bigger than Starbase 7 had been. The peace anniversary ceremony will be held here, he explained. All major Earth leaders will attend. The Drokai ambassador will present a gift to humanity, supposedly a new energy technology. You think the gift is the beacon, Tai-ho guessed. Yes, and once it's activated in the presence of Earth's leaders, Tai-ho completed the thought. They'll be influenced, changed, made more, accepting of Drokai demands. Exactly, General Ba said. Within months, the Drokai could have control of Earth's government without firing a single shot. Tai-ho stood up. His old legs felt stronger now, fueled by purpose and anger. So what's the plan? How do we stop them? Major Han stepped forward with a tablet. She showed Tai-ho a detailed map of Earth Orbital Station 1. We have 12 agents already in place on the station, disguised as maintenance workers and security personnel, she explained. But we need someone who can recognize the beacon on site, someone who knows exactly what it looks like and what it does. Tai-ho looked at her in surprise. You want me to go? I'm an old man. You're a war hero, General Ba corrected him, and the only living person who has seen and touched a beacon. Your presence at the ceremony would not be questioned. Many veterans have been invited. Once there, Major Han continued, you would help our agents identify the beacon. Then they would neutralize it. Neutralize how? Tai-ho asked. General Ba picked up a small device from his desk. It looked like a simple pen. This is a targeted EMP device, he said. It can disable electronic equipment within a very small radius, about 10 centimeters. It won't harm humans or affect the station's systems, but it should disable the beacon long enough for our agents to secure it. Tai-ho took the device and examined it. Simple. I like it. He looked up at General Ba. But what if the beacon isn't electronic? What if it's something stranger? Then we move to Plan B, General Ba said grimly. Full station evacuation, and if necessary, destruction. Tai-ho nodded. He understood that kind of plan all too well. When do we leave? He asked. In 6 hours, Major Han replied. The ceremony begins at 1400 hours tomorrow. We need to get you on board and briefed before then. Tai-ho handed the EMP device back to General Ba. I'll need a proper uniform. If I'm representing Earth, I want to look the part. For the first time, General Ba smiled. Already taken care of, Captain. He pressed a button on his desk, and a side door opened. Inside was a display case containing a perfectly pressed military dress uniform, with all of Tai-ho's original medals and badges. The silver tiger of his unit gleamed on the collar. Your country hasn't forgotten you, Captain Lee, General Ba said softly. Some of us still remember. And now, we need you one more time. Tai-ho felt a lump in his throat as he looked at the uniform. For years he had felt useless, forgotten, a relic of a war no one cared about anymore. Now suddenly he had purpose again. He was needed again. I'll need to practice with that EMP device, he said, his voice rough with emotion. And I want to meet the team I'll be working with. Major Han nodded, clearly pleased with his response. Right away, sir. Lieutenant Kang will show you to your quarters, where you can rest first. Then we'll begin preparation. As Tai-ho followed Lieutenant Kang out of the room, he felt strangely light. The pain in his knees seemed less important. The weight of years of loneliness and bitterness had lifted. Tomorrow, he would face the Drokai again. Tomorrow, he would protect his world once more. Tomorrow, the old tiger would hunt again. The space shuttle rose smoothly through the clouds. Tai-ho sat by a window, watching Earth grow smaller below. His uniform felt both strange and familiar, like greeting an old friend after many years. The medals on his chest caught the light when he moved. Across from him sat Major Han and two agents disguised as security officers. They wore simple uniforms with Earth government patches. How are you feeling, Captain? Major Han asked. Ready, Tai-ho said. He patted the pocket where the EMP device, disguised as a simple pen, was hidden. He had practiced with it for hours, learning exactly how to activate it. Remember the plan, Major Han said quietly. The ceremony will be in the main hall. The Drokai ambassador will present the gift to the Earth president. You'll be seated in the veterans section, close enough to see it clearly. If I confirm it's a beacon, press the button on your comm device, one of the agents said, pointing to what looked like a normal hearing aid in Tai-ho's ear. We'll do the rest. Tai-ho nodded. The plan was simple. Identify the beacon, alert the team, then let the trained agents handle it. His part was small but crucial. The shuttle docked at Earth Orbital Station, 3 hours later. The station was enormous. A city in space, home to over 10,000 people. It spun slowly to create artificial gravity. As Tai-ho stepped off the shuttle, a young officer approached him. Captain Lee Tai-ho. I'm Lieutenant Joe. I've been assigned as your escort for the ceremony. Tai-ho exchanged a quick glance with Major Han. This wasn't part of the plan. Thank you, Lieutenant, he said calmly. I wasn't expecting an escort. Lieutenant Joe smiled. Special orders for all the Tiger Unit veterans, sir. The President wants to make sure you're properly honored today. Major Han nodded slightly to Tai-ho. Go along with it, her eyes said. Very kind of the President, Tai-ho said. Lead the way, Lieutenant. The station was decorated for the ceremony. Banners showing Earth and Drokai symbols hung side by side. People hurried around, making final preparations. Security was everywhere. Lieutenant Joe led Tai-ho to a special waiting room for honored guests. 5 other old men were already there, the remaining survivors of various military units that had fought in the war. One of them stood up when Tai-ho entered. Captain Lee, is that really you? Tai-ho recognized him immediately. Commander Park Jin-woo. It's been a long time. The 2 old soldiers clasped hands warmly. They had fought together at the Battle of Mars Colony, before Starbase 7. I thought you'd be dead by now, Commander Park said with a laugh. Not yet, Tai-ho replied. Though not for lack of trying. The other veterans introduced themselves. They sat together, sharing stories of the war and of their lives since. For the first time in years, Taeho felt among friends, people who understood what he had seen and done. But he couldn't forget why he was really here. 2 hours before the ceremony, they were taken to the main hall for a final security check. The hall was massive, with a high ceiling and windows that looked out into space. At the front was a stage with podiums for the speakers. Rows of seats filled the floor. "Veterans will sit here, in the front row," Lieutenant Joe explained, showing them their seats. Taeho looked around carefully. The veterans section was directly across from where the Drokei delegation would sit. He would have a clear view of the gift presentation. Perfect. As they waited, Taeho studied the security arrangements. Guards at all exits, scanners checking everyone who entered. His EMP device had passed the checks. The Earth Defense Force technicians had made sure it wouldn't trigger the alarms. Slowly, the hall filled with people. Government officials, military officers, celebrities, reporters, all the important people of Earth gathered in one place. At exactly 1400 hours, the Earth President entered from one side of the stage. From the other side came the Drokei ambassador. Taeho's breath caught in his throat. It was his first time seeing a Drokei in person since the war. They were tall, with gray-blue skin and long limbs. Their faces had no nose, just breathing slits, and their eyes were large and black. The Drokei ambassador wore ornate robes of deep purple. Behind him, 4 Drokei guards carried a large box covered in shimmering cloth. The president spoke first. "Today marks 30 years of peace between our peoples. 30 years of cooperation and friendship." Taeho barely heard the words. His eyes were fixed on the covered box. Was the beacon inside? It had to be. The Drokei ambassador stepped forward to speak. His voice was deep and musical, translated by a small device at his throat. "Honored friends, 30 years ago, our peoples were enemies. Today, we are partners in the great journey of civilization." As the ambassador spoke, Taeho's hand moved to his comm device, ready to alert the team when the moment came. "And to celebrate this historic anniversary, we bring a gift to Earth. A new technology that will benefit both our worlds." The ambassador gestured, and his guards brought the box forward. With a flourish, he pulled away the cloth. Inside was a black cube covered in strange symbols. The beacon. It looked exactly as Taeho remembered, the same size, the same shifting symbols. But now it pulsed with a faint blue light. Taeho pressed his comm button immediately. "It's the beacon," he whispered. "Confirmed." The ambassador lifted the cube from its box. "This is the Harmony Core," he announced. "A new energy source that will power our shared future. When activated, it will connect to all compatible Drokei technology on Earth, enhancing its efficiency by 300%. Connect to all Drokei technology." Taeho's heart raced. That's how they would do it. Activate the beacon here, and it would connect to and control all the Drokei tech already on Earth. "Where are the agents?" He whispered into his comm. No response. Something was wrong. The ambassador was continuing his speech. "It gives me great pleasure to present this gift to Earth. Once activated, the connection process will begin immediately." He turned toward a control panel that had been set up on the stage. Taeho looked around desperately. Where were the Earth Defense Force agents? They should have moved by now. Then he saw Major Han. She was being held discreetly by 2 security officers at the side of the room. Their eyes met briefly, and she shook her head slightly. The plan had failed. The agents had been caught. The ambassador reached for the control panel. Without thinking, Taeho stood up. "Stop," he shouted. The hall went silent. All eyes turned to him. "Captain Lee." The president looked confused. "Is something wrong?" Taeho knew he had only seconds before security reached him. He had to make them count. "That device is not what he claims," Taeho said loudly, pointing at the beacon. "It's a control mechanism. It will take over all Drokei technology on Earth. It will influence human minds, make us more accepting of Drokei control." Murmurs ran through the crowd. The ambassador's face showed no expression. Trokai faces never did, but his posture stiffened. "This veteran is confused," the ambassador said smoothly. "Perhaps his memories of the war." "I'm not confused," Taiho interrupted. "I've seen this device before. At Starbase 7, we destroyed it because we knew what it could do." Security officers were moving toward him now. Taiho had to act quickly. He pulled the EMP device from his pocket. It wouldn't work from this distance. He needed to get closer. "The Trokai want to conquer us," he continued, moving toward the stage. "Not with ships and weapons this time, but with this device." The security officers reached him, grabbing his arms. "Sir, you need to sit down," one said firmly. Taiho was too old and too slow to fight them, but he had one advantage. No one considered him a threat. He was just a confused old man having a breakdown. "I apologize," he said, lowering his voice. "The memories sometimes. Please, let me apologize to the ambassador personally." The officers looked at each other uncertainly. The president nodded. "Let him approach. Captain Lee is a war hero. He deserves our respect, even if his mind is not what it once was." The security officers released Taiho's arms but stayed close as he walked slowly toward the stage. The ambassador watched him with those large black eyes. Did Taiho imagine it, or was there a hint of worry in that alien face? "Ambassador," Taiho said as he reached the stage, "I fought your people 30 years ago. I killed many Drokai soldiers, and I have regretted the bloodshed ever since." He extended his hand, as if offering peace. The EMP device was hidden in his palm. After a moment's hesitation, the ambassador took his hand. "Your regret honors you, Captain," the ambassador said. Taiho pressed the button on the EMP device. Nothing happened. The ambassador's grip tightened painfully on Taiho's hand. "Did you think we wouldn't scan for such devices?" he asked quietly, so only Taiho could hear. Despair washed over Taiho. He had failed. The beacon would be activated, and Earth would fall. Then he remembered something from his recovered memories. When he had touched the beacon at Starbase 7, it had reacted to him, to human touch. With his free hand, Taiho lunged for the beacon. Security was too slow to stop him. His fingers touched the black surface of the cube. The same shock ran through him as 30 years ago. The same flood of images, stars, planets, hunger. But this time, Taiho wasn't afraid. This time, he pushed back. All his anger at being forgotten, all his grief for his fallen friends, all his love for his planet, he pushed it all into the beacon. The cube began to glow brightly. The symbols on its surface spun faster. The ambassador tried to pull it away, but Taiho held on tightly. "You will not take my world," he growled. The beacon's glow turned from blue to red. It vibrated in Taiho's hand. "Get back." Major Han's voice cut through the confusion. She had broken free from her captors. "Everyone get back." The ambassador released Taiho's hand and backed away, his eyes wide with fear. The beacon was hot now, burning Taiho's fingers, but he didn't let go. He could feel it building toward something. An explosion, perhaps. It didn't matter. He was old. He had lived his life. If this was how it ended, protecting Earth one last time, that was all right. "For the Tiger unit," he whispered. The beacon shattered in his hand. A wave of energy burst outward, knocking everyone back. But instead of heat or pain, it brought clarity. Throughout the hall, people blinked as if waking from a dream. The president shook his head, looking confused. Then his eyes focused on the Drokai ambassador with new awareness. "Security," the president said sharply. "Detain the ambassador and his staff. Now." As guards rushed to obey, Taiho collapsed to his knees. His hand was bleeding where the beacon had broken, but he felt no pain. Major Han reached him first. "Captain, are you all right?" Taiho looked up at her and smiled. "Did it work?" Yes, she said, helping him to his feet. When the beacon broke, it released a counterpulse. It cleared the influence that was already affecting some officials. Look around. All through the hall, government leaders were ordering security to secure the Drokai delegation. The dazed, peaceful acceptance was gone, replaced by alert suspicion. The Earth Defense Force teams are moving in across the planet. Major Han continued quietly. All Drokai technology is being isolated and examined. We've won, Captain. Tahoe nodded, suddenly very tired. Good, he said simply. 1 year later, Tahoe stood in the new memorial park in Seoul. Before him was a wall of names, all those who had died in the war with the Drokai, including his 22 men from Starbase 7. But now there was also a statue. It showed an old soldier standing tall, reaching out his hand to protect Earth. The plaque read, Captain Lee Tahoe of the Tiger Unit, who saved Earth twice. General Ba stood beside him, watching as people laid flowers at the memorial. Many stopped to bow respectfully to Tahoe as they passed. How does it feel? General Ba asked. Strange, Tahoe admitted, to be remembered while I'm still alive. You deserve it, General Ba said. The President has asked if you would consider a position as special advisor to the new Galactic Security Council. Tahoe raised an eyebrow. Me? I'm just an old soldier. An old soldier with wisdom we need, General Bay replied. The Drokai have retreated, but they're not the only threat out there. What you learned from the beacon about older, hungrier things beyond our galaxy, that knowledge is valuable. Tahoe looked at the memorial, at the names of his friends. Then he looked up at the sky, where stars would be visible when night fell. Will a black SUV pick me up again? He asked with a small smile. General Ba laughed. Every morning at 700, if you accept. Tahoe nodded. I accept. As they walked away from the memorial, a group of school children ran up to Tahoe. Captain Lee, one small boy called. Will you tell us about the Tiger Unit? We're learning about it in school. Tahoe stopped, surprised. Then he smiled. Of course, he said, sitting on a nearby bench. The children gathered around him eagerly. It began 30 years ago, he started, with 40 brave men who wore the Tiger badge. The old veteran, once insulted and forgotten, was now a living legend. His story would be remembered, his friends would be honored, and the Tigers would protect Earth for generations to come.